We're looking at a document today that, well, it attempts to do the impossible.
Yeah.
Stop a billion-dollar argument before it even starts.
It's quite an ambition.
It really is. We were doing a deep dive into the FIDIC Red Book from 2017, but we're not reading the whole thing. We're zeroing in on one specific part, the Dispute Avoidance Adjudication Agreement.
Right, the DAA Agreement. It's the part of the contract everyone ignores until, the project is already on fire.
Exactly. And usually we talk about specs or deadlines or liability, but this is all about people. It's about hiring a referee for the project. And looking at my notes, FIDI made a really aggressive change in 2017. They actually changed the name of the board itself.
That's the absolute key. For decades, it was a Dispute Adjudication Board, a DAB, and its job was purely reactive.
So a fight breaks out, you call the DAAB.
Precisely. The employer and contractor are at loggerheads, the DAB steps in, holds a hearing, and spits out a decision. It was basically a private court for the construction site.
Which is fine, I guess, but that means the fight's already happened. The damage is done.
The damage is done, the relationship is probably broken, and it's incredibly expensive. So in 2017, FEDX added one word and one letter that just flips the entire philosophy on its head.
It's now a DAA.
A Dispute Avoidance Adjudication Board?
Avoidance, that's the magic word. But, let's be cynical for a second. Is that just marketing? Is it just a rebrand? Or does the contract actually force them to act differently?
Oh, it's a procedural obligation now. It's not just a nice idea. The procedural rules are built from the ground up to force this board to be proactive. They're not judges in a tower anymore. They have to be counselors on the ground.
They have to smell the smoke, as they say.
They have to smell the smoke before the fire starts.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but in practice, it seems messy. You're giving enormous authority to, 3 people? And my first question as a project director would be, who are these people? Because, in this industry, everybody knows everybody.
And that's the biggest hurdle, right? The construction world at that top level is incredibly small. But the 2017 rules, they just double down on this idea of independence. They're demanding what you could call a super-neutral status.
I saw that. They use the word warranty in Clause 3. That's a strong word. It's not a suggestion. It's a legal guarantee.
It is. The member literally warrants that they are impartial. And if they breach that, they can be held liable. But the really tough part is the specific criteria they lay out.
Yeah, I was looking at the past relationship rules. Usually it's, you haven't worked for the company in a year or two. This goes way, way beyond that.
Way beyond. Clause 4.1c sets a 10-year exclusion period. 10 years.
Wait, so if you've been employed as a consultant or in any capacity by the employer or the contractor in the last decade,
yeah,
you're out.
You're disqualified.
How is that even practical? If you want a top expert on, say, tunneling technology, chances are they've consulted for one of the big global firms the last 10 years. Aren't you just ruling out the best people?
You're certainly thinning the herd, but think of the alternative. For this avoidance piece to work, the informal chats, the advice, the trust has to be absolute. If the contractor knows the board chair was on the employer's payroll 3 years ago,
they'll never open up. They won't trust the advice.
Never. The whole avoidance mechanism just crumbles. So it's a trade-off. They're trading a wider talent pool for absolute, unimpeachable integrity.
And it's not just the past, is it? It's the future, too. I saw Clause 4.1F that bans them from even discussing future employment.
Exactly. You can't dangle a future directorship in front of the judge to get a good ruling today. You can't even have the conversation.
And there's another bit that struck me, Clause 2.3, that the appointment is personal.
Yes. This isn't like hiring a big consulting firm where they can send a substitute.
Right. If the main guy's busy, he sends his deputy.
Not here. It is a personal services contract. If they hire you, you show up. You can't subcontract your brain. The parties are paying for your specific judgment.
Okay, so speaking of showing up, let's talk about presence. The old model, the DABs, they were often ghost boards, right? They only appeared when a dispute was filed.
Pretty much, but these rules completely change that. It's all about boots on the ground. Rule 3.3 mandates regular site visits.
Even if the project is running smoothly.
Especially if it's running smoothly. The rule says the interval has to be between 70 and 140 days.
So every 3 to 5 months, these 3 international experts have to fly to the site. That adds up, cost-wise. Why is that so critical if there are no disputes?
Because a monthly report doesn't tell you the whole story. You can't read body language in an email. When you walk a site, you see things. You see the tension between the engineers team and the contractors team. You notice they aren't making eye contact in meetings.
That's the smelling smoke part.
That's it. You pick up on the friction before it explodes into a formal claim. And the rules have triggers for mandatory visits, too. Rule 3.5 covers what they call critical events.
Like a project suspension.
Exactly. Or if the employer tries to terminate the contract, the DAD has to get there immediately. They're like first responders to a contract heart attack.
And there's an urgent visit clause as well.
Rule 3.6. Yes. Either party can request one, and the board has to try and hold a video call within 3 days and physically be on site within 14. It makes them a rapid response unit.
So who handles the logistics?
Yeah.
I can't imagine a board member trying to book flights while a project is imploding.
No, the contractor's on the hook for that. Rule 3.9 says they have to sort out the transport, safety gear, all of it. But the board has to do the paperwork. Rule 3.00 gives them just 7 days after a visit to write and circulate their report.
That's a tight turnaround.
It has to be. Speed is the enemy of disputes. You can't let things fester.
Okay, so they're independent, they're present on site, they're watching everything. Now we get to the avoidance. How do they actually do it? The document calls it informal assistance. This feels like the core of the whole thing.
It's the secret weapon, but it has a very important safety catch. Rule 2.1. It has to be requested jointly by the parties.
Ah. Well, that seems like a potential flaw. I mean, if the employer and contractor are already at odds, are they really going to agree to hold hands and ask for advice?
That is the big question. And you're right, often they won't. But the mere existence of the mechanism creates a kind of commercial pressure. If one party suggests it and the other refuses.
It makes the refusing party look like they know they're in the wrong.
Exactly. It suggests they're not confident in their position. It forces a bit of a poker game. And if they do agree, the advice can be given anywhere. On a site walk, over coffee, a quick written note. It's not binding. It's just the board saying, look, from where we're sitting, if this goes formal, you're probably going to lose. You might want to sort this out now.
So it's basically high-level counseling.
Yeah.
But that creates a procedural nightmare, doesn't it? If they give you informal advice, the parties ignore it, and it becomes a formal dispute. Have they already shown their hand? Aren't they biased?
That is the tightrope they have to walk. And the rules address it directly. It's what I call hat switching. Rule 7.3 is critical here.
Okay.
If the DAAB is in a formal hearing, so they're wearing their judge hat, they are forbidden from giving informal assistance on that specific dispute.
They have to stay in their lane.
Totally. Unless, and this is the clever part, unless the parties agree to adjourn the hearing.
So they have to pause the trial.
They pause the trial, the board takes off the judge hat, puts on the counselor hat, gives their informal opinion. If the parties settle, great. If they don't, the board puts the judge hat back on and the hearing resumes.
But wait a minute. As a human, can you really do that?
Yeah.
If the board has just said, we think the contractor is wrong, and then the trial starts again, how can the contractor possibly feel they're getting a fair hearing?
That is the risk. The whole system relies on these being consummate professionals who can compartmentalize. But legally, that rule is there to protect the process from being challenged later. Without it, the losing party would just argue the decision was tainted.
It's a high-wire act. Let's talk about power. In the old construction hierarchy, the engineer was basically God on site. They made the calls. Where does the DAB fit in now? Do they overrule the engineer?
This is where the 2017 Red Book shows its teeth. The DAB has what are called inquisitorial powers, but the real bomb is in Rule 5.1K.
The power to open up decisions.
That's it. The DAB has the power to open up, review, and revise any certificate, decision, or valuation made by the engineer.
Any. So if the engineer refuses to certify a payment milestone, the DAB can just come in and say, nope, you're wrong, pay the man.
They can completely overrule it. They can essentially rewrite the engineer's decision.
That fundamentally changes the political landscape of a project. The engineer is no longer the final word. The DAB is.
Correct. And that power doesn't stop there. They aren't just passive judges listening to arguments. Rule 5.1G lets them take the initiative to ascertain the facts.
So they can go digging for evidence themselves.
If they think the parties are holding something back, yes. They can demand documents that haven't been submitted. They can even hire their own independent experts if they think the ones provided by the parties are just, spinning a yarn.
So they're an investigator, a counselor, and a judge. That sounds expensive. And in construction, cash flow is everything. What stops a party from just not paying the DAB when things get heated?
The agreement is way ahead of you on that. Clause 9 has this really clever payment safety net.
Okay, how does it work?
So the fees are usually split 50-50. But if one party, say, the contractor stops paying, Clause 9.6 lets the DAB member invoice the employer for the full amount.
And the employer has to pay it.
They must. They then have to try and recover that money from the contractor themselves. So the employer effectively guarantees the DAB's payment.
So they can't be starved out. But what if the whole project is collapsing and both parties stop paying?
Then you get to Clause 9.7, the nuclear option.
Which is?
They can go on strike. If an invoice is unpaid for 56 days, they give 7 days notice and suspend their services.
Wow. So right in the middle of a massive dispute when you need them most, the board can just walk off the job.
It is incredible leverage, and it almost always gets them paid.
Let's flip that around. What if the parties want to fire a board member? Say one side feels they're biased or just ineffective.
Firing is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's a three-way agreement, Clause 10.3 requires joint agreement to terminate someone. The employer can't fire a member just because they lost a decision unless the contractor agrees.
Which protects their independence. They can't be punished for making an unpopular call.
Exactly. But there is one way a member can be removed for cause: a conflict of interest. And this brings us to what I think is one of the most dangerous clauses for a project team to miss. Rule 10.1.
The objection timeline.
The shot clock. If you find out about a potential conflict of interest, let's say you discover the board member's son just got a job with the other party's law firm, you have to object. And Rule 10.1 gives you exactly 7 days to do it.
7 days. In a big company, it takes 7 days just to schedule a meeting with the legal team.
And that's the trap. If you wait until day 8, you are deemed to have waived your right to object. Forever. You can't save it and use it as a trump card later if you get a bad decision.
That is incredibly harsh. A project manager could be on vacation, miss an email, and the whole company loses its right to challenge a biased judge.
It's harsh, but it's designed to kill that old strategy of pocketing an objection. FED wants it out in the open immediately. You speak now or you forever hold your peace.
Okay, so assuming they all stay on the board and the informal stuff fails, we get to a formal decision. How is that made? Is it a majority vote?
Rule 8.2 says they have to try their best to be unanimous. A 3-0 decision carries a lot more weight. But if they can't agree, yes, a simple majority rules.
And the person who disagrees just has to suck it up.
No, actually. The minority member can write their own separate report explaining why they dissent. And that can be pure gold for the losing party if they decide to take the fight to the next stage, to arbitration.
It's a roadmap for their appeal.
A perfect roadmap.
I noticed one tiny detail in Rule 8.3, the correction period.
Ah, the typo rule.
It gives them 14 days to correct typographical or arithmetic errors.
And it happens more than you'd think. Someone leaves a 0 off an award. A $10 million decision becomes a $1 million decision.
And if you don't spot it and flag it within 14 days,
the $1 million decision stands.
that is terrifying.
It's why lawyers get paid the big bucks to read every single comma.
So if we step back from all this detail, we have this intricate machine, this independent, well-paid board with the power to overrule the site engineer and investigate on its own. It feels like we're creating a fourth branch of government on a construction project.
In a way, we are. The industry recognized that the old adversarial hierarchy just wasn't working on these modern mega projects. The DAA is an attempt to insert a layer of neutral, objective truth into the process.
But does it just create more bureaucracy? Now you're not just managing the contractor and the engineer, you have to manage the board as well.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? When it works well, you never hear about it because the disputes just disappear. When it fails, yes, it's another layer of cost. But the 2017 Red Book makes one thing clear. You can't ignore them. Their presence is mandatory.
So it's forced cooperation written into the contract.
It is. It forces everyone into a room with a neutral party every few months. And that simple act, that required presence, it changes behavior.
It's institutionalized project therapy.
Expensive therapy, sure, but a lot cheaper than a lawsuit.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it, but with one final thought for you to chew on. We talked about how this DAB can open up the engineer's decisions. In a sense, the DAB becomes the ultimate authority on site, more powerful than the people actually building the thing. So the question is, does this new layer of oversight truly solve problems, or does it just create a new hierarchy, a new god of the project for everyone to fight over?
It's a very delicate balance.
It certainly is. Make sure you check your contracts, check your avoidance clauses, and if you spot a conflict of interest, don't wait 7 days. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you in the next one.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop, the link is in the description.
Thanks for watching, please subscribe and see next time.